2015's Ant-Man is the 12th film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It tells the story of ex-convict Scott Lang taking up the mantle of the Ant-Man in order to stop an evil businessman from distributing weapons of mass destruction to the highest bidders. The film was humorous and action-packed as Marvel movies have been known to be. I thought the cast was great, sold their roles, and probably did justice to the characters I've come to love through years of comic reading. But 2018's Ant-Man and The Wasp didn't sell it for me. Don't get me wrong, the action was amazing and the visuals were a slight step up from the last one, but I was very underwhelmed. When I made the mistake of watching the trailer, I was really impressed with the visuals, mostly how they implemented Wasp's new tech and fighting ability.
Ooh, that's lit.
That's cool. Hey, that's lit. Hey!
But as I sat in the theater watching the movie, my eagerness faded away. Leaving the theater, I felt something I never really did with another Marvel movie.
Disappointed!
Don't get me wrong, the film ups the ante with even more special effects and even more humorous moments, but more doesn't always mean better. Scott in the last movie was a cat burglar that studied engineering and tried his best to understand the information given to him during this new situation. In this movie, he is way too goofy and has to literally have everything explained to him, even things that are slight variants of things that he's learned in the last movie. There's a point in the movie where he invites his comic relief friend to come to their secret hiding spot so that they can go over their work for their side plot Incorporated, and that ends up leading the villain and the FBI to their secret location. Nobody could be this dumb. He's fairly competent in the first film and even in the small bit that we saw him in Civil War. This just seems like lazy writing.
What was I supposed to do? What?
I don't know what that means.
Your mom put a message in my head? Come on. That's insane.
What do you mean? You with her? Oh man, I thought you were cool.
The whole script just seems like the filmmakers just wanted to put a bunch of funny jokes into the movie, but then started to take out the plot and replace it with more jokes. I'm not saying the MCU can't have funny scenes. Every single Marvel Cinematic Universe movie has made me laugh, except probably this one, but in the movies, I mostly look for action and story more than I do jokes. There are so many jokes that bring the film to a complete standstill and some that go on for way too long. Most of the scenes in this movie are unnecessary in the grand scheme of the MCU. This movie is only necessary to show three things. The quantum realm exists and is yet to be discovered on how much it can do. Wasp is awesome and way cooler than Ant-Man. And all of Team Ant-Man except for Scott got snapped away during the events of Infinity War. We didn't need to see Scott break into an elementary school. We didn't need to know about Scott's security company, even though it's a reference to the comics. They didn't even need Scott for most of this movie. They didn't need him for the deal with Sonny. They didn't need him to meet with Bill Foster. They only needed him to get the piece from the old suit and to do weird mind-melding things with Janet. That is the most cringy scene in the entire MCU, and I can't even look at it, really. Some of these problems continue from the first film's shaky production when they had almost the perfect writer for an Ant-Man film. Edgar Wright, director of films like Scott Pilgrim, Shaun of the Dead, and Hot Fuzz. After making the script starting in 2003, several script changes and a couple of MCU connections started to be added. In May 2014, Wright was leaving the project due to differences in their vision of the film. Edgar Wright is a director with a specific style and certain way he wants his films to look and to be paced out. Wright came out with a statement saying,
"I wanted to make a Marvel movie, but I don't think they really wanted to make an Edgar Wright movie."
Turns out that rewrites were made without Wright's knowing. The film was later rewritten by Paul Rudd and Adam McKay and directed by Peyton Reed. After being such a fan of Edgar Wright's work, it's very obvious which scene in Ant-Man he wrote and directed. Louise's explanation and the end fight with Thomas the Tank Engine are very Edgar Wright. Ant-Man and the Wasp missed all the cinematics and cues that Edgar Wright added to make the first film such a good script. The writers had to start a script completely from scratch instead of adding small changes to an already great script from a person who did heavy research on the character and their backgrounds. The first film introduced the character and usually origins could take away from the overall feel of a film, but with a script written by Edgar Wright and Joe Cornish and rewritten by Adam McKay and Paul Rudd, it has plenty of decent heartfelt moments that make you feel for the characters. The way Scott tries his best to put his mistakes and wrongdoings behind him, the guy just wants to be a good father to his daughter, but he has made it clear to his ex-wife and her husband that Scott was not meant to be a father right now. It feels like a trope in today's media that every film needs their character at their lowest point. showing their family hates them, the mob is out to get them, they have no money, they didn't get into ICDC college, they get shot on garbage day, they find out Fortnite doesn't run on Windows 95, you know, rock bottom. That's one thing I will give to Ant-Man and the Wasp. The film shows Scott's life going pretty well, aside from the fact he's on house arrest due to the events of Captain America Civil War. He's got his own house, he's got his own company, and he's even been able to regain the trust of his family. The film's writing also barely uses some characters to their full potential. Let's look at Ghost. She's a well-designed character, a real good live-action take on the Iron Man villain that really comes off as visually unsettling. I consider her to be the best written character in the movie, with the way that her powers fluctuate based on how she feels and what situation she's in. Standing still and just talking would Scott her powers seem unaffected, but when the ant team starts to escape, she has a hard time pulling herself up through the pain. Ghost has a good reason to be angry too. Her life is on the line, and the man who is responsible for the fall in her father's career has something that she needs to live, and she wants to take it. The choices she has is this: absorb the essence of quantum energy from the wife of the man who ruined your life and possibly kill her, or have your atoms slowly ripped apart until you are nothing more. I could see why she would pick the former. They had the character Bill Foster, who used to work for Hank Pym on Project Goliath, which is a precursor to Giant Man, and he is horribly underused in this film. They made him out to be a surprise villain working to make sure that Ghost got the quantum energy in order to stop her quantum instability from killing her. In the comics, Bill Foster had left Pym Tech to start his own company. When he decided to use the Pym particles, make sure to fix the mental side effects and reverse the effects so he could grow like Pym had as Giant Man. They could have made it out that Foster was expanding his knowledge of the quantum realm and Pym particles and was able to replicate the process. We could have had a Giant Man versus Goliath fight instead of wasting Giant Man for walking up to a ferry, getting the lab, and passing out on the water. Some could say this would be a bit expensive or complicated, but simplifying it down could be worth it. Ending the fight with Bill Foster's suit malfunctioning or Scott shrinking down and breaking apart the wiring could show that Pym was the real brains behind the project. That could be a good way to cap off the movie, showing that all the people who thought they were better than Pym couldn't stand the power of the work he had designed. This may be another example of an MCU copycat fight, but I just really wanted Giant Man and Bill Foster to be more used in the movie. Let's take a look at the real climax of the movie. The main goal of this movie is to retrieve Hank's wife, Janet Van Dyne, who has been lost in the quantum realm for 30 years. The villain is dead set to absorb the quantum energy from Janet in order to keep herself alive. And how is the villain thwarted? Janet somehow gained the power to transfer quantum energy through her body, and she just gives Ghost the quantum energy. This, kids, is what I would call a cop-out. This whole film sets up the conflict between Janet and Ghost. Only one of them will be able to survive, and to just create this situation out of thin air just feels lazy. It was meant to bring a resolution of the new concept of the quantum realm being able to save the villain from dying, and for it just to be set up as the hero just being able to give it to him is disappointing. This film may just be an example of too many cooks in the kitchen, and that's acceptable. I know not all MCU movies can be huge hits, with this one only grossing $216 million. If you don't know, that's not a lot. This movie could have been better if they delayed the movie to get their cards straight, but I feel like they just wanted that connection to Infinity War. Watching the movie again, I only felt a little disappointed since I didn't pay $20 to watch the movie in a theater with a bunch of laughing 8-year-olds. The effects are good and I enjoyed some of the character moments. I expect more from Ant-Man 3. I feel like they will try their best to fix what they did with this one just to make sure the audience are still interested in the characters. And with so many references to Cassie Lang being a hero in the future and her having a 20-year growth spurt in Endgame, I expect a higher stature for the next movie.